Good morning, friends. I am walking. It is sunshine today. We were expecting good rains this time, this monsoon. The monsoon has come already, but the rains are disappeared after a small quantity of rains we experienced before 15 days. We thought the monsoon would come quickly and it will sustain for some time as it should be. It was predicted, but it disappeared. This is unusual. Things are happening in the environment due to pollution for different purpose. So today I will talk to you on a very important thing, that is my biography, my autobiography. So I was born and brought up in a upper middle class family in the village. We had a joint family. My grandfather was a matriculate in 1921 and he joined the Tehsil office under British administration, and he was very successful officer in his office. He lost his father when he was only 18 years old. He was giving his high school examination. That time his father expired and his younger brother was still to born. He was in his mother's womb. So his younger brother has not seen his father. So his father died. My grandfather was studying in a high school which was about 25 kilometers from our house. So he used to stay in the hostel, and after his father's death, he was the eldest son among three siblings, I hope. Yes, means his brother, his two sisters. So therefore, he had a lot of responsibilities on his shoulder. He had about 5 acres of cultivation land and no other income. And the village he was staying, it was very far from the city. That time, in 1921 I'm talking, the communication system was very, very poor and people were facing a lot of difficulties to come to city or town for their education, for their business, for health facilities at a very, very difficult time. So therefore, the people are dying when there is an epidemic, there was any kind of disease, without getting the, that proper medical facilities. They were dying. But the food that time was good in quality. People are not using any manure, any fertilizer, any pesticides, and the food was very good quality, but people are poor that time. In a village, about 50% people are very, very poor, and 20% are rich, and another 30% were just managing their life through daily wages. So our village was located in a place which was 10 kilometers from the railway stations, nearby railway stations, Jaleshwar, and nearby bus stop was Sugo, where about 3 to 4 buses were coming that time. That time the buses were without, that like truck. They were not having that cover except the engines. The driver was sitting inside the cabin and people are sitting open air buses were there. Even I have seen in 1970 I born, and after 1977 I could understand. I was a little grown up. I have seen one bus was telling matches box. So the matchbox was like that. So it was, I have seen. Later on the buses, they became, that cover, and things got improved. So my grandfather has to lead a very, very difficult life, because there were about 5 people in the family, and only income was cultivation. And he started doing the job. He was getting 3 rupees salary per month from his office. And with his hard work and commitment, dedication, honesty, he did well in his job, and every year he was getting at least 1 rupee or 50 paise increment. So he worked about 10 to 12 years in the British administration. Later on he left the job because that time our Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, he told all the Indians to leave the job of government offices under British administration, and it was called Quit India movement, I think, or any other non-cooperation movement. So that time he also left the job and he started doing cultivation, because that time the people are having a lot of dedication towards the country's leaders. So they were very, very honest people that time. So in our village that time, what my grandfather told me, later on, maybe after 50 years, he told me that our time, the village was having only 60 houses. If I say today, there are 450 houses in the village, and all the houses were kacha, or you can say earthen houses, thatched houses, cottage type. Very few houses were having good in condition. So in the rainy season, many houses were not having the condition to stay in. So people are poor. So how the people are leading their life? People are daily laborers. They are working in the paddy fields of the rich people, and even some are also working in Kolkata. Kolkata was a metropolitan city that time. It was the capital city of the British government. You can say East India Company. So it was a place where a lot of jobs were available. There are a lot of that cotton mills, lot of tea factories, lot of people were staying. Rich people are many there. So it was very close to our place. Means you can say 5 hours journey from our village. So people used to go to the station walking even, and they got the train and they are going to Kolkata. They are working very small petty jobs and they are giving money to their family. So many people are also working like this. So my grandfather time, people are very honest, very simple, very that good people, you can say. They don't have much complexity, criticalness in their mind, as they are not aware about the situation. They are educated. There is no school in the village, So one school was there which was in another village, so which was about 3 kilometers or 2 kilometers from our house. So my grandfather came to his family, and his mother and he himself started working in the paddy fields, and also he got married that time. My grandmother was 14 years younger to my grandfather. My grandfather got married when he was 21, and my grandmother was only 7 years child, even not matured that time. So that time child marriage was rampant. There was child marriage everywhere. So the people are encouraging child marriage, and they are not educated, not aware. So it was not a good tradition that time. A lot of stigma, social problems were there. So my grandfather got married from West Bengal, and West Bengal, one village of West Bengal, and West Bengal was just neighboring state of our state. So my grandmother was a very, very sacred lady. She got married when she did not know even what is marriage. So after 7 years, when she got 14 years old, that time she got matured and maturity, and then she was sent to my grandfather's house to stay together. So my grandfather was 28 and my grandmother was only 14 years old, a small child. And she started working that time. My younger grandfather was only, you can say, 7 years old. So my younger grandfather was like a son for my grandmother. So they both played together. My grandmother used to tell that he was like my son, my elder son. So unfortunately, my grandmother could not give birth to any child until she was about 26 years old. So in 26 years means my grandfather was that time about, you can say, 40 years old. So in 40 years, after a lot of pujas, a lot of medicines, a lot of treatment, my grandmother gave birth to my eldest father. My elder father was born in 42. Yes, 42. And my father born in 1945 or 44. 2 years gap. That was all finish of the family planning. So my grandfather used to tell me that our time there was abundant of rain, proper sunshine, proper winter, proper, you can say, a lot of creatures were found. People are happy, though they don't have much, the rich, not rich, they have just hand to mouth, very poor people, but they're happy. There was close relations between the people, and only 5% of the people of the children of the village, they were going to school. Only 5%, you can say, only primary education. Only 2% are going to secondary education, and the village was full of a good place to stay. So it was happening in this way. There are a lot of festivals. They are being celebrated in the village, and people are having a good time always. Despite their empty hand, they are celebrating all the festivals, and there was good time going on. And many people, they are giving, the marriage was being conducted in the village only. Means one part of the village is the house of bridegroom. Another part of village was the house of, house of the bride. So in the village only, a lot of relatives were coming. So in this way, the work was going on. My grandfather, after leaving the job, he was doing his cultivation work. At that time, he was invited by a very rich person from West Bengal, a businessman who was having big business in Kolkata. He was having big business in Kolkata, in hotel business, in shipment, and even many. He was very close to the British government, and he was very rich man in the nearby village. He came to know this man was working in Tehsil office, and he left the job, and for his consciousness towards the freedom struggle of India and giving respect to the Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement or civil disobedience movement, like he left his job and he's staying at home. But he is a good person, he's an honest person. He came to know different sources. So he invited my grandfather to come and stay with him as a diwan. Diwan means the revenue inspector of the office of the rich man. He was all in all. He was reporting directly to the owner, and that time the man had a big building. Big building was not there. That my grandfather only built for him. Later on, he was having a house, good house, and having almost 1,000 acres of land, paddy crops land. Later on, he donated the land with the poor when the Bhudan movement was conducted by the disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, Sant Vinoba Bhave, in 1952-54. That time, Vinoba Bhave came to, he traveled whole India and convinced the, you can say, the rich people to distribute the land among the poor. So that time Zamindar system was coming to an end, and the people were convinced, the rich people, and they convinced and they distributed the land or donated the land to the poor. So that time he was having 1,000 acres of land, and later on he was having only maybe 300 to 400 acres of land. And later on, his son could not manage it, and there was another movement where the poor people, they snatched the land of the rich people, as the government was pro-communist in the West Bengal. So anyway, that time this man was having almost 1,000 acres of land, and having 200 bullocks, and many ponds, fish ponds, many orchards, many you can say many people are working, laborers daily, about 100 laborers are working daily. So he was not satisfied with the previous diwan, as the diwan was a lunatic. He was exploiting the people, and people are complaining against him. He was not having good character. So therefore he invited my grandfather to come and to help him, or to take the position of the diwan. And my grandfather accepted it, and he started working as a diwan in the estate of the rich person. Thank you very much.